This is rather embarrassing. I got a review code for this game and I really did intend on releasing the video review right before the game released. Yeah, but didn't work out that way. I ran into a bunch of personal issues that made me halt my $1 million operation that I've got going on here. And, but yeah, so let's just jump into the video. I don't want to waste your time, so let's go.
With the formalities out of the way, what we have here is a Scandinavian puzzle game. Perfect! I say that because, well, it's the dead end of summer right now. Where I live, it's like standing on the sun. So a game set in a dreamlike world filled with snow should help me pretend it's not 1,000 degrees outside. Anyways, the game is developed by Polygon Treehouse, a small indie studio based out of Cambridge in the UK. And get this, the indie studio that made this game was co-founded by 2 ex-Guerrilla Games art directors.
We will strike without warning and without mercy.
Yes, that Guerrilla Games. Tom Jones and Alex, So Roki with 2 dots on the O means that I completely butchered the pronunciation of the title. The game is about a sister. No, not that kind of sister, who is trying to find her kidnapped brother, and no, not that kind of kidnapper. This kind. Which, I'll be honest, I don't know what that thing is.
So we're way past the embargo date at this point, so I really don't think the developers give a shit whether I talk about the ending or not, but I'm still not gonna spoil it because, well, this is a very heavy story-driven game. I mean, if we get a scale and where like, the gameplay is here and the story is here, it's more like, like so. I mean, it's pretty balanced, but not quite. So, there's not gonna be any spoilers here, and yeah, so let's just jump into the thing with me doing my usual thing, with the exception of not going to the story.
As for the gameplay, Roki is your standard puzzle game. The game uses a similar structure that point-and-click games employ, except that in this game you can actually move around, which I didn't expect, but it works out in the game's favor. As for the general gameplay, the game plays exactly like you would expect a game like this to play. It doesn't try to do anything special. You gather different items. On occasion you would need to combine a few together, and you find said items by either examining different objects or interacting with the various NPCs throughout the game. Now that could be a bad thing or a good thing depending on how you look at it. On the one hand, it's true that the game doesn't try anything particularly different aside from one section at the end of the game, which might make it less interesting to some people, but on the other hand, that does result in the game having a very solid foundation. In the wise words of Charlie Harper,
stick with the basics. Better to do the simple stuff well than the fancy stuff badly.
And that's exactly what this game does. And by now I'm sure you noticed the graphics. The tale of Roki is built on Scandinavian folklore, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video. And what does that mean? Lots and lots of snow. Since snow looks good in games, this game ends up being completely breathtakingly beautiful. Of course, it helps that the 2 founders of Polygon Treehouse are art directors by trade. Now, while I thought Virtuaverse was a good looking game because I have a thing for pixel graphics, I do know that pixel graphics aren't for everyone. But this, I record my games at 1080p 60 FPS usually, and that's primarily to save disk space, and even at 1080p, the game was just pleasant to look at. There's a shortcut system in the game which unlocked by rescuing the various mystical trees located in the world. This shortcut system is great for those people that just want to get to the puzzles as quickly as possible. As for most of the time, I wasn't bothered by running from one end of the map to the next, because the game just looked that good. Plus, running around all over the place instead of using the shortcut system allows me to find all the hidden collectibles in the game, which if you're a completionist, running around the world is something you will need to do regardless to get 100%. So it's at least nice that the game has a captivating atmosphere. As for the additional stuff that you have in your bag, other than the key items, you have a map that shows you where you are in case you get lost, a note-taking system that reminds you of what you did in case you forgot. It also provides you with your current objectives so that you have some idea on what you are supposed to do next. The badge system kind of spoils the game if you ask me, so I would stay away from it because it shows you the major things you have done and what you have left. The last tab that I have yet to talk about is the loot tab. This shows the aforementioned collectibles. One of the biggest compliments I can give the game, however, is that it's slightly non-linear. I say that because the beginning section and the final section of the game are linear and offer very traditional puzzles, though the last section of the game does provide a twist that negates the lack of non-linearity. But those 2 sections of the game are not not the meat of the game. The meat of the game is the middle section, which is by far where you will spend most of your time in the game. It provides a lot of room when it comes to which story puzzle you want to solve first, which really helps the game come to life, I feel. Now we get to my two major issues with the game. The first one being that the game was easy. I was never stuck while playing the game. Sure, some puzzles took more time than others, but overall the game was quite the mellow experience. This is an issue in my book because I like to be challenged every now and then. Otherwise, it makes me feel like I'm just going through the motion. I mean, I was told that the game is 12 to 15 hours long, but it only took me 10 hours to beat me, which was really surprising. There was nothing in this game like there was in Virtuaverse, where I really had to think about what to do next. Granted, a few of the puzzles in Virtuaverse were very convoluted, but the point still stands. My second and last issue with the game is the story. I would say I enjoyed 80% of the story. I would give it a B-. It wasn't a specific section in the game that bothered me. It was actually several story moments, because they all shared the same problem, and that they were very in your face. This game has no subtle story moments. There's no nuance. The game will show you a sad scene in a way like it's ordering me to be sad. The smaller twists in the story were relatively well done. The big moments, on the other hand, felt a little too forced for my taste. So to conclude this review,
Roki is a puzzle game that tries to balance the gameplay part and the story part, but while it does end up being very entertaining for the most part, it also ends up being a little too overripe from a story perspective and a little too easy from a gameplay perspective. For my taste, at least. But I know that that is what some people are looking for in a game, and if you're one of those people, then I think you're gonna like the game. And yeah, I mean, the game is 20 bucks on Steam. I'd personally wait for a sale. And there's nothing left to say other than, with that being said, for those of you who are watching, wherever you may be in this world, thank you guys for watching, and stay alive until the next video, which will probably be tomorrow. I'm making a Mario video. So yeah, with that being said, see ya guys.